All right, folks. We're a little behind schedule, but let's call to order the April MTA Board Meeting. Safety announcement, and then we'll hear from public speakers, courtesy of Ruby. Thanks.
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway, or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. Ruby, Megan, public speakers.
Good morning and welcome to the MTA Board Meeting's public comment session. We have 36 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask all public speakers to adhere to the MTA rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker is Jessica Murray, followed by Jack Nierenberg.
Good morning, Board. 8 long years ago this month, in 2017, disability advocates sued the MTA over the poor maintenance of the elevators we depend on. 8 years. That's how long the MTA has dragged out this lawsuit. 8 years. All we want are elevators that don't break down when we're in the middle of a trip. All we want is an effective communication system so we know when an elevator is out. All we want are clean elevators and an agreement so we can hold the MTA to its promises. 8 years. But what do we have instead? 8 years of the MTA's private lawyers earning 7 figures. For what? No settlement, no progress. Refusal by supposed leaders to negotiate. 8 years. MTA honchos may tell you that they have won this case. Don't believe them, they haven't. The MTA has decided it's better to go to trial than to figure out how to announce that an elevator is out of service on a train. It's apparently too much to ask that the station agent know where to direct someone when an elevator is out of service. 8 years, and often it takes 8 months to replace an elevator, making the station inaccessible the entire time. 8 years of the MTA telling you they're doing a great job when people in wheelchairs are still getting carried out of stations by the fire department because one of the elevators on their trip isn't working. 8 years, and for more than 2 years, we've been outside every single month trying to get your attention. Does this speech sound familiar to you? 7 of us gave a similar speech a year ago on the 7th anniversary of the lawsuit, only to be threatened with made-up rules about public comments and to see another failed attempt at dismissing the case entirely last May. Thank goodness the judge didn't buy the arguments that you can't do better. You can.
Our next speaker is Jack Nierenberg, followed by David Kupperberg.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jack Nierenberg, and I'm the Vice President of Passengers United. And as I hope you're all aware, the MTA promised the riding public in Queens that no one would have to pay an additional fare. No one who's already paying 1 fare to ride the buses in Queens will have to pay 2 fares because of the changes in the Queens bus network redesign. Well, we're only 2 months away from the start of implementation, and we have no list from the MTA, nor no formal list of where the additional free transfer points are. Well, that's unacceptable. So we put together this list of all of the free transfer points that need to be added to ensure that all the gaps are filled and that no one ends up paying an additional fare because of the changes. And if we don't see the MTA implement that and actually make that public and provide that information to us officially by the next board meeting, there will be grounds for legal action to be taken. We will not accept this. Please, just make life easy for everyone. The legal problems that the MTA has with the Queens Bus Network redesign, they're already bad. They're going to get worse. So why not just make it easier for yourselves and adopt a universal second transfer? I want to know what studies has the MTA done to evaluate the costs and the benefits of just providing a universal free second transfer. It's a no-brainer. Not only will it make it easier for you all at the MTA implementing this, so you don't even need this, but also it not only makes it easier for the riding public, but it also fills in so many more gaps that this list doesn't even get to. So please, just make life easier for yourselves. Adopt a universal second transfer policy, and if there's a legitimate reason why that cannot happen, this needs to be done and finalized by the next board meeting. Thank you. This can be passed on to some of the...
We'll pass it on. Thank you. Our next speaker is David Kupperberg, followed by Lisa Dagley.
I distributed material to the New York City Transit MTA Bus Committee at their monthly March meeting. Such materials were quickly removed by Government and Community Relations in full view of the cameras. The materials criticized the MTA but did not violate the MTA rules of conduct and decorum. And from the last time I heard, the United States of America still has a First Amendment. I will not be deterred. As part of the Queens Bus Network redesign, the Q101 will be diverted from Manhattan to the Long Island City Ferry Terminal. This seems benign, but not to those who live in Long Island City. NYC ferry riders pay a premium, and NYC Ferry doesn't accept MetroCard, nor will accept Omni. Indeed, the Q101 reroute will hurt local riders. Also, the northern terminals of the Q33 and Q47 will be switched. The Q33 will serve LaGuardia Airport Terminal A, and the Q47 will serve East Elmhurst. This seems benign, but not to the people of East Elmhurst. The Q47 does not and will not operate overnight. Worst of all, the Q47 will no longer serve the Boulevard Corporate Center, a major trip generator in East Elmhurst. I gave ideas as to how this could be remedied, but these will not be done because I wasn't taken seriously. And the people of Eastern Queens will have less service because the Q36 will no longer operate overnight, and the new Q82 will not operate overnight. Plus, the three-legged transfers imposed as part of the Queens Bus Network redesign are not on the Queens Bus Network redesign page. These transfers must not be kept secret nor be cumbersome, as that riders must make knowledgeable decisions on how they travel within Queens. Ye shall speak the truth, and the truth shall set ye free.
Next speaker is Lisa Dagley, followed by Deborah Grife.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lisa Dagley, and the Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. We left on Monday anxiously awaiting word of the budget and fate of the 25-29 capital program. Well, we didn't have to wait long. While short on details, we were thrilled with the framework laid out by Governor Hochul. It's clear Albany understands the importance of a modern and well-maintained transit system to the millions of those of us who rely on it daily. A well-funded capital plan will ensure a safe, reliable system that's kept in a state of good repair and brought into the 21st century with new fare arrays, train cars, and electric buses, accessibility at dozens of more stations, the IBX, and upgraded signals and power system. The MTA is on the hook for $3 billion, and it won't be easy, but you spent the better part of the past year and change finding savings from efficiencies and innovations. A lot of eyes will be on you to see how you get it done without affecting reliability or frequencies, ours included. We'll have some ideas as well. It's part of our mandate as the official voice of riders. It's in that context that we raise our concerns about the East River Tunnel work. Shutting down a tube at a time is a recipe for a disaster under any circumstance, but trusting this Amtrak with our riders is potential for unmitigated disaster and suffering that makes the summer of hell look like a warm spring day. Our concerns are rooted in recent history. Lackluster performance leading to delays in projects and for riders from East Side Access to Third Track to Harold Interlocking to the catenaries between New York and New Jersey Penn stations, to name a few. The work must be done, but it can be done faster and smarter with less effect on passengers across the entire Northeast. We're looking forward to more details about riders' priorities in the final budget, including more equitable access to affordable transit that's key to our ongoing regional recovery and will help us weather the Washington storms. We look forward to continuing to work with you to get it done. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Deborah Grife, followed by Michael Ring.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Grife, and today I'm going to want to thank the MTA because this month is Autistic Awareness Month. As you know, I'm the chairperson of the Brooklyn Family Support Service Advisory Council. That's for families who have children with different developmental disabilities, and our role is to help families get services so the child can stay and live at home with the family. Thank you very much for doing that wonderful event. The individuals who were participating and their families were so happy. I'm still getting a lot of happy thank yous, and the kids are so happy, and they want to hope we can do more of that. So that part I want to thank you. I also want to say I want you to know that I'm a little upset about something with fare evasion. On a B68 bus going northbound, a bus driver was threatened. I was on the bus with him. He said to the young man, you have to pay. The guy started to threaten him. I stood up and said, do you want me to dial 911? Yes, he said. Well, he then all of a sudden thought he was cute because they said everyone take pictures of him. Didn't realize that the cameras on the bus took his picture. But to me, that is disgusting to have him threatened that way. And no, I didn't go like you think Wonder Woman, Batman. I just stood up because I said, and other people on the bus stood up to defend him also. I am not happy that bus drivers are being threatened this way. We are required to pay the fare. So I hope that we have more measures to protect the bus drivers, because if we don't, then I will have, and nothing is accessory, but I don't want to use it full time. I want to be able to use local buses too. So let's figure ways to protect our bus drivers. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Ring, followed by Latoya De Leon.
Good morning. My name is Michael Ring. If you need a verbal description of my appearance, I'm a 61-year-old white guy. Today I'm wearing a yellow hoodie that says Achilles International. While I'm not here representing my running club, on Sunday I was wearing a similar shirt while myself, along with 25,000 of my friends, ran from McCarran Park to Prospect Park. So 25,000 pedestrians landed in Prospect Park within a couple hours. I used to organize running races, and races of that size, you deal with citywide events. You're going to get a permit. You deal with the police, the sanitation department. But I don't think we deal with the MTA because the Q train wasn't running. And almost everyone who finished this race needed to get home and didn't have a car. It's kind of chaotic. I'm hoping in the future, when there's events of this size, work could be done a different day than, I think, 25,000 people needing to get on the train within a couple hours might be more than took the Q train today. Another thing, on Tuesday, Jano, you mentioned that we're all family. Happy birthday, Chris.
Thank you.
Today's Chris's birthday. Also, Monday, Kathy Collins was not here. She usually speaks on the first day on the the committee meetings. She was a few blocks uptown getting her marriage license. So I wanted to just congratulate Kathy, who's watching on video right now, and she's getting married. And hope everyone has a good day, and maybe next time the train will work at the end of a giant race, when things like that. Thanks.
Our next speaker is John Padulla, followed by Christopher Grafe.
Gotcha. Oh, it's a gooseneck. Well, that's good. Sorry, folks. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Padulla, and I'm a supervisor with Educational Vision Services. I'm also a member of the Advisory Committee for Transit Accessibility. I do want to start by saying congratulations to Rachel Cohen and Chris P. for their most recent appointments. Their contributions to paratransit have been invaluable over these last few years. I'm very appreciative. Jano, I've been missing these last couple of months, and while you've been navigating a wild political landscape, I've been trying to figure out what to do with a fractured fifth metatarsal. And I speak about this because it sort of gives you pause. Like, you never know what's going to go wrong in life, right? Like, one minute you're in Dominican Republic and you're on a beautiful vacation and you take a wayward trip down a water slide, and here I am. Whoever thought that I would show up publicly with purposefully mismatched shoes, right? But you never know what's going to go wrong in life. You never know what's going to happen. So I say this because I'm often talking about paratransit for sustainable employment, and but you know what? It's for work. It's for play. It is for doctor's appointments. Meaningful, usable, equitable paratransit. I couldn't get around those 4 to 6 weeks. Those first weeks, it was miserable. And you know what? I definitely needed more than usual. Layering a motoric impairment on top of blindness has been a vibe at best. Things are much better now, but you never know what's going to happen in life, folks. Disability knows no bounds. It's the one demographic that doesn't discriminate. So again, I'm just here to say, let's keep up the great work with Accessoride. Let's keep pushing it, because I know it's not funded by capital funding, but we need to figure out the money, because you never know what's going to go wrong and when you're going to need it. My name is John Padulla. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Christopher Grafe, followed by Latoya DeLeon.
Good morning, everyone. Christopher D. Grife. I do want to thank the MTA regarding Autistic Awareness Month, as Deborah mentioned earlier, but I want to add something that's got me shocked and super happy. Normally, on the press release, it says all the stations. There was a couple of stations I heard the announcement, and I've never heard them before, and I'm actually really glad. Kings Highway on the Q and B, and Stowell Avenue, Coney Island. And some of the families heard it. They were like, oh, my God, that's my son. They were so happy. I mean, they were in tears. And I wanted to share this moment because they said, you're right, Chris, this is the new MTA. We are moving forward. We're moving forward for accessibility on this. And I'm very happy. I'm also really happy about the budget, because finally we can get more accessibility, not just at the stations, update our trains, buses, and all the vehicles that need to be updated for the 21st century. I am happy. And also, I love that birthday gift when the governor said the budget's going through. I said, oh, I get it. I get a nice gift, a happy gift for me, but a happy gift for everyone, because whoever has a birthday in April or May, we're getting something going to get done. But we still have to continue advocating for the future accessibility. It'll just be nice if our Washington, D.C. division will get their information and see what we've been doing, but instead they like to look at something behind our backs, want to stop congestion pricing. I don't want congestion pricing to stop. I want to get to where I have to go on time with my mother in the walker, who needs to get somewhere on time. And I still ask the press today, I challenge them to go with her anywhere in the 5 boroughs with Accessoride and see how the Accessoride moves. Because they should see what a walker, wheelchair, any mobile device, or any person with a disability or senior, how they travel with Accessoride. Sorry.
Our next speaker is Latoya DeLeon, followed by Omar Vera.
We are students attending New York Institute of Technology. I'm Andrea Knudsen, first year in biotech.
I'm Gesson Tomei, computer science student, first year.
My name is Latoya DeLeon. I'm a third year interior design student.
We, the students of New York Tech, respectfully request the LIRR to offer reduced train fare options for New York Tech students. New York Tech, located in Manhattan and Long Island, contributes $534.3 million annually to the local and state economy, supporting 2,900 jobs. Employees and those dependent on New York Tech contribute $12.4 million in local and state tax revenue. New York Tech's mission is to provide career-oriented education, ensure access for qualified students, and support research benefiting society. Lower transportation costs can enhance accessibility, fostering a diverse and inclusive community.
Currently, New York Tech students face high transportation costs impacting their academic performance and well-being. A fall 2024 survey revealed that 64% of Long Island students cited the prohibitive cost of LIR tickets as their main commuting challenge. Affordable transportation options are crucial for students to attend classes, participate in internships, and contribute to the local economy. Investing in reduced transportation costs can improve graduation rates, job placement, and lifetime earnings. Graduated and employed alumni will eventually use the LIRR at full fare rates.
We request the LIR to consider implementing reduced train fare options for New York Tech students. Possible solutions include developing a college student version of the LIRR's mail and ride monthly tickets for schools program, selling bulk passes to the university at a discounted rate, allocating state or federal funds to offset student costs, or providing transportation grants to college students in need. It'll benefit me personally because as a New York Tech student living in Queens, I could take the LIRR for a quicker commute, but the high cost keeps me from.
I intentionally choose my classes to minimize my visits to campus to reduce costs.
And travel subsidies will allow me to travel smoothly between my two campuses to explore and take advantage of all my school's opportunities.
We urge the LIRR to support New York Tech students by offering reduced train fare options. This measure will benefit students, the institution, and the broader community. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Omar Vera, followed by Moyen Tam.
Good morning, MTA Board. Welcome to the April edition of your board meeting. First, let me say happy birthday, Chris. Thank you. Yes. Second, I'd like to reiterate what I said Monday, which is, like I said, try to modify the Queens Bus redesign to make the Q50 like run to LaGuardia Airport, because, like I said, Bronx needs a direct airport bus connection, and it's not fair that only Manhattan has that luxury, or for elsewhere. We gotta make more connections for better service, and likewise, keep staying strong with congestion pricing. We got this, and we will win. And with that, I have to say, that's all I have to say for this month, and see you around.
Our next speaker is Miriam Tam, followed by Charlton Dosa.
Good morning, board members. I'm Miriam Tam, New York Policy Manager with Jobs to Move America, or JMA. We work to ensure our public money creates family-sustaining jobs. In early April, the chair and board received 2 letters led by Senator Michael Gianaris, Deputy Majority Leader, and Assemblymember Harry Bronson, Chair of the Labor Committee, signed by state legislators calling for the inclusion of the U.S. Employment Plan for the 2,000 new rail car purchases in the current capital plan. With budget negotiations wrapping up and the governor's office and state legislators committed to fully fund the $68.4 billion capital plan in the budget, now is the opportunity to ensure this investment in new rail cars contribute to quality manufacturing jobs. Over 6 years ago, JMA worked closely with the MTA to integrate the U.S. Employment Plan into the R211 RFP to purchase new rail cars. As the U.S. DOT approved procurement policy, the U.S. Employment Plan incentivizes manufacturers receiving public money to be high-road manufacturers by detailing jobs created, wages, benefits, and related training. Now valued at over $4 billion, this contract with Kawasaki Railcar has the potential to ensure that our public spending contributes to good community-sustaining jobs. Public transparency is also a core principle of this procurement tool. The job commitments manufacturers make and fulfillment of these commitments must be disclosed to the public. The U.S. Employment Plan worksheet provides a readily usable reporting tool for stakeholder engagement. JMA and its union partners are eager to work with the MTA again to apply the U.S. Employment Plan to the upcoming railcar purchases. This will help ensure that the $11 billion investment in upgrading MTA's transit system will create quality U.S. manufacturing jobs and allow stakeholders to hold contractors accountable to their job promises. Thank you.
The next speaker is Charlton Dosa, followed by Alito Dupree.
Everyone, Charlton Dosa, President of Passengers United. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So, Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, said on Fox 5 yesterday that the MTA is still not changing its ways when it comes to clean trains, clean subway system, and crime. And you, Mr. Chairman, and the governor, Kathy Hochul, can change this in one day. All you have to do is give our NYPD and our MT police officers the power to arrest people and the power to do their jobs. Very simple solution, all right? And so if, at the committee meetings, there were board members making comments about what the Secretary of Transportation said. And it had me wondering if there's no respect for Secretary Sean Duffy and what he wants to do on the federal level, then why am I even wasting my time as a president coming to these meetings and talking to you guys, right? That's the issue, because transit workers are getting assaulted. 34% of police officers are getting assaulted in the subway system. I've almost been, well, I got assaulted 3 times. But when I'm dealing with the homeless and emotionally disturbed, we're scared because we've had things thrown at us and stuff like that. So you guys don't know, I'm in the subway system overnight. We do a lot of advocacy. Now, I do want to thank my team on the Queens bus redesign because they're doing a great job, but you need to incorporate these transfers for the Queens bus redesign because we are marching with the churches on June 29th. And June 29th is going to be Judgment Day because all of you said the Queens bus redesign was a great plan. Everything's good. You said we didn't know what we were talking about. Well, guess what? Like I said, June 29th, Judgment Day. And like I said, people are very upset. They've told me that it's not working.
Please conclude your remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you. As a reminder, speakers shall address their remarks to the chair only. Our next speaker is Alita Dupree, followed by Eric Roman.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Janel Lieber and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. Thought I'd give you some G-Line subway today. I rode the G-Line more in my month in New York recently than I had in the previous 40 years, so I'm pretty proud of that. Church Avenue is my old family neighborhood. Going back to like my great-grandparents, I walked around there and got to see the old family home. So the G is very meaningful to me. And I really enjoyed the new open gangway cars. And I wrote a letter to the BART board, shared this picture, and I said, you know, it really does look like BART. So we have a lot of things in common with BART, which I often refer to as being the people system. In referring to the agenda, we have lots of important things. Work at Delancey, Essex. I didn't know we had soil issues down there, so we want to keep that going so it lasts into the future. And some procurements for Omni with readers and a substation in the Bronx. I know that Marble Hill neighborhood well. I used to go running up in Van Cortlandt Park. Substations are not just important for powering the system, but they also provide positive energy. So we need to keep working on our substations. Again, I really enjoyed my time with y'all in New York, coming to see in person. I hope to do that more often. You know, flying on airplanes is hard sometimes, and I have issues, but definitely New York is where I come from. And of course, one of the things in New York is I can never have enough Grand Central Terminal. So I thank you for the work. If we want to vote these procurements in, uphold the idea that the MTA is legendary and
Please
stately.
conclude your remarks. Our next speaker is Eric Raman, followed by Tamal Johnson.
Good morning, board members. I'm Eric Roman, Northeast Director with Jobs of America. I'm here today to renew a call we made to the chair and the board multiple times recently to release information that MTA's contractor, Kawasaki, has been required to provide about the jobs and wages of workers producing subway cars for the agency's multi-billion-dollar railcar contract. In recent months, the chair and board got multiple letters signed by state legislators, unions, watchdog organizations, and environmental allies calling for transparency. Mr. Lieber, in December, you said you'd look into the matter. The board should know that for 16 months in running, your attorneys maintain the position that the MTA can and should hide from the public basic information on what workers are getting paid by a company with a $4 billion plus contract. What does Kawasaki have to hide, and why are your attorneys helping them hide it? There is another way. You can direct your attorneys to reverse this position and release unredacted information at any time. Equally important, you can partner with good jobs advocates like Jobs of America to use the U.S. Department of Transportation approved U.S. employment plan for the next round of railcar purchases. You received a letter just a couple of weeks ago, letters led by Senator Michael Gianaris and Assemblymember Harry Bronson on this very issue, which will ensure that the $11 billion invested in upgrading our subway and commuter rail systems will create family-supporting jobs. We look forward to meeting with board and staff in charge of railcar procurement soon to make this happen. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tamal Johnson, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning. My name is Tamal Johnson. I'm the Vice President of RTO for Local 100. Outside of civil service titles, Chairman Lieber, this company hires a lot of lawyers. Not one lawyer or person with a Juris Doctorate told you guys that you're violating FMLA law. Members are taking 3 months to get approved, if getting approved at all. It's a straight violation of the law. Now, FMLA is put in place to help members. I've heard that there's a shortage of doctors to approve the FMLA. That's no excuse. Because when I look at labor relations, there's no shortage of labor relations officers to dish out discipline to members. None at all. Now, when it comes to crime in the subways, right? A commanding officer got demoted and removed for lying about the crime stats. Not one MTA board member mentions that when they talk about crime. Y'all want to get into these spouts with Secretary Duffy and say, oh, it's not as bad. No, it's bad. And y'all lying about the crime stats because y'all not telling the truth. Now, I've seen a MTA executive officer put on their LinkedIn that they looking for a SVP for buses, right? It's a slap in the face to the members, and this is why. Y'all don't hire from the people who've been doing the work forever here. The decisions you make at the top affects the bottom. And it's a slap in the face to everyone who's coming up through the ranks and thinking that they can achieve these spots. The MTA will literally hire a psychology and a doctor that has a doctor in psychology to do open heart surgery just because they're a doctor. That's how this company works, right? Now, this company don't care about pregnant women. Somebody said mothers treated awful. That's what the MTA stand for. Y'all don't care about assaults. We mainly taking assaults. Something have to change here. Something have to change, but stop violating FMLA law.
Please conclude your
That's all I'm
remarks.
asking. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Miriam Fisher.
Good morning, everybody. Jason Anthony, the Transit Guru. My apologies that I couldn't be there this morning. I'm having severe allergies, but I'll be okay. First things first, let's do several fact checkings. One person mentioned about Sean Patrick Duffy appearing in Fox 5 yesterday. We should ask, why is it that all of a sudden Sean Patrick Duffy appears in certain network that most of us don't even watch, but lying about the state of our beloved subway system, but only cares about infrastructure? The last time that I checked, he wrote the subway with Eric Lloyd Adams from DeKalb Avenue to Broadway Lafayette, just to have, let's say, a casual late morning breakfast in a famous restaurant in downtown Brooklyn. Let's be clear. Sean Patrick Duffy doesn't like New York because he is from the Midwest. But the MTA and our beloved governor, she cares about New York. And I know that Janet Lieber cares about the MTA. But I want to conclude giving a happy birthday to Christopher Grife, that he is a dedicated app for over 30 years. So I'll see you guys next month.
Our next speaker is Miriam Fisher, followed by Iris Kelly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good morning. Shopping list on accessibility. I support my colleague Jessica Murray, who spoke about the MTA signing the elevator maintenance suit. On Monday, there were 43 elevator outages. 13% of the elevators endangers vulnerable riders who are stranded. Promises are not legal guarantees. announcements, visual and auditory, of elevator outages on the subway cars, on the platforms. Not everyone has cells. Cells don't work everywhere. The technology is there. Digital visual displays from Washington, D.C. I don't know if this is readable, but it's the kind of digital announcements we have in New York City about when the next bus is coming. Very helpful, but this is also about outages, visual and auditory on the platform. I'm wondering about the new trains that are being purchased and whether they'll address the gap between the train and the platform, which makes it hard for many people, especially people in wheelchairs, to make that leap between the platform and the train. Could you address that? What gets this on the radar? Needs seats, bus stops, more and better ones with the new buses coming. Needs seats and shelter from bad weather. Manhattan CB4 has sent a letter to the DOT and MTA Ray regarding 6th Avenue, 23rd Street, 6 stops along 23rd. Needs to be on the radar everywhere. Benches, seating for seniors.
Please
pregnant
conclude your
women.
remarks. Our
Please
next,
don't mute them. Thank you for listening.
our next speaker is Iris Kelly.
Hey, hello, Kay, you hear me? Yeah, I submitted you a report card on Monday, hopefully you received it, which started from January 2023. I didn't get A+ from doing anything correct for Brooklyn. You had everything right. We had our own trains coming in from Brooklyn going into Long Island. They have to switch. It's digital screens, you'll be able to see the train time at eye level for people not tall. You had many other different things that was going right, including making train connections and time-wise in between. But now, as of February, you went downhill because they took away all the things you had correct for Brooklyn and took it away and gave us garbage. We're at the tip of the curb like we mean nothing. You have where no connections properly. Then a weeknight, the 10:04, Long Island to Brooklyn, Manhattan comes in. But Brooklyn train goes out at 10:04. That should be lined up. Or if you can't do that, at least make it a little bit longer to be able to make the connection. Because from track 2 to track 12 is a long trip. So make it take the 10:04 to make it a 10:10 at least. Or give us another train in between. I shouldn't have to wait a half an hour for the next train out just to go to Brooklyn. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. I mean, I hope you pay attention to what was written to your passengers right to you. And this would mean a lot to get things straightened out for Brooklyn, because we're part of this too. Not it's like a shuttle. We are an actual train connection. It's very important to all of us coming in and out of Manhattan to Brooklyn and vice versa. Don't forget, Manhattan's not the only one. We have to deal with Brooklyn just as well as getting to Manhattan. Thank you.
Our next speaker is David Paul Gerber.
Thank you, everyone. Hello. I'm going to hold on. Let me get to the website here. Last month's meeting here, I discussed about the accessibility here, and I discussed about the accessibility stations and the elevator accessibility index. Hold on, please, 1 minute. Shoot. None. Okay, there, that's better. Okay, there, that's better. So I discussed about the elevator accessibility here and the travel alternatives. You guys never fixed it. You guys never fixed it here. I even had here an email saying under case 01906196445 that person by name of Bendy will look into the travel alternatives here at Queens Plaza. Case in point, again, you put the travel alternatives from one station to another that does not have elevators in service. Queens Plaza, 74th Street, Roosevelt Avenue, 66th Street, Lincoln Center here, You don't put, you put them here, let's say travel alternatives here, right here. And you just ignore that. You never fix these, and you have new ones, Atlantic Avenue 4 and 5. And about fare evasion here, you talk about combating fare evasion, yet you don't do anything about protecting bus operators. I'm a firm believer in protection and respect. Fare evaders have no respect, and the incident about the assault raises awareness. If you don't do something about fare evasion, then MTA Channel Legal should resign.
Please conclude your
because he doesn't
remarks.
do anything.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lisa Gesson.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Gesson. I'm the Director of Operations at the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled, and I'm here to share a personal story. My husband, Michael Beckman, a stage 4 cancer patient in active treatment and a dialysis patient with end-stage renal disease, had temporary accessoride status. His dialysis center filled out the temporary application, and his oncologist wrote the letter explaining his medical need for ongoing paratransit for treatments. We couldn't believe that the application and letter from 2 medical care providers weren't enough, but they didn't satisfy accessoride. Going for an in-person accessoride evaluation was difficult since we alternated dialysis and oncology treatments every day. BCID tried to get an exception on our behalf, and everyone at accessoride kept repeating the party line about everyone must come for the in-person assessment. The in-person assessment is required by one municipality in New York State, New York City. We postponed cancer treatment to visit your assessment center. As the nurse who evaluated my husband commented, it was obvious in a glance that he more than qualified. She could have gotten the same glance on Zoom. He was weakened and nearly collapsed from fatigue at your assessment center, but luckily for you, he kept it together and collapsed at home. The next day, he was too exhausted to take accessoride to his dialysis appointment or even get up. He had used up all his precious energy on a visit to the accessoride assessment center. I had to call for paramedics to take us to in-hospital dialysis. The day my husband died, I got the letter confirming his accessoride status as a full rider. You can and should change this policy. Show some humanity, and please end the in-person assessments. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Yolanda Alen.
Good morning. My name is Yolanda Alen. I'm here to talk about Accessoride. Each month I talk about Accessoride, and the service has not improved. If you guys run Accessoride the way the subway is and the buses, we get a whole lot of better service than we have. And for years, the service has not improved. I have missed my doctor's appointment, my physical therapy appointment, because they arrive late. Not only that, but people refuse to take Accessoride these days because they're afraid they can't get back home. I got late for one appointment, and when I was supposed to get picked up to come back home, unfortunately, that was the same time I was getting treatment. Guess what? When I was leaving, they told me it's going to take me another 2 to 3 hours before I could get back home. Does the subway or the bus system run the same way? Every month, people come and testify about Accessoride, and the board members seem like they're not listening. Apparently, Accessoride take the most vulnerable population, and yet still we are treated as leftover or garbage or trash that you want to throw out rather. It's most ridiculous. No way would the subway or the bus system work the way Stress Ride is being run. Impossible, because people would not tolerate that nonsense. What are you planning to do? For years, it's not that it happened yesterday, today, tomorrow. It's been years of the same nonsense taking place, and no one seems to want to fix it. It's unfortunately, here it is, people that are most vulnerable, that use the system, is unable to get from point A to point B in decency and order. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carl Pereira.
Good morning. My name is Carl Pereira, representing the Our Neighbors Civic Association of Ozone Park. I'm also a member of Passengers United, and I'd like to speak today about the transfer policy on New York City buses and subways. Right now, people in Ozone Park and other sections of Queens sometimes require 2 or 3 transfers to get to certain locations in Queens. Also, when they're commuting into the Bronx, especially, sometimes you need not even a second transfer, you also need a third transfer. So I think the MTA, instead of making all these 3-legged transfers at specified locations, would be a lot easier just to give at least 3 transfers for 1 fare within a certain time period, like 2 hours after the last transfer. I don't think there'll be any type of loss involved. There's a lot of students also, I know, take a bus to a subway and then they take another bus, and a lot of people take a bus to subway to bus when they go into work. So that's also a second transfer. So I think a better transfer policy is needed in that regard. Regarding the fare capping, something that could be done, right now there's a 7-day fare capping for $34. If they could incorporate a daily fare cap within the 7-day fare cap for like 25% of the $34, which would be $8.50. Then if you have a daily fare cap within the $34 weekly 7-day fare cap, that could cover those people that need those additional transfers. The third thing I'd like to talk about is the express bus riders. Right now, they're paying $64 for the express bus 7-day Metro card, but on the Omni, they'll be paying $70 minimum for the normal average rider. So some type of discount is needed for express bus riders on the Omni, and you need to take a look at that too. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Van Dyke.
Good morning. On Monday, the Elevator Action Group held our monthly elevator maintenance rally. We've been doing this every month for the past 2 years, and the lawsuit we're talking about was filed in 2017. That's 8 years ago. One of the lawyers from Disability Rights Advocates who represents the plaintiffs put together these numbers. Since April 25th, 2017, when the lawsuit was filed, there have been 13 court appearances, over 20 depositions, over 10,000 pages of motion practice, 6 different judges, over 330 entries on the court's docket, and 1 ruling was made in the plaintiff's favor from the second highest court in the country. The case is not over, contrary to what MTA representatives say and how the MTA conducts itself. Our last day in court was May 8th, 2024. On August 30th, 2024, Judge Daniels made the ruling in our favor. Now, we're wondering how this stall and delay tactic is a cost-effective strategy for you. I mean, seriously, how is this working out for you? We know it's not working out for riders. On the day of our rally, as Miriam Fisher mentioned, 43 elevators were out of service. That is 13% of all the elevators in the system. In the past week, outages have ranged from 35 to 43 per day. This is inexcusable. I mean, we are thrilled you're building new elevators and at a faster pace than is legally mandated, but come on, it is not enough to build them. They have to work. Now, behind our outrage are all the people with disabilities and everyday New Yorkers who depend on elevators to get to work, go to school, visit friends and family, and get around this great city. 8 years of legal fees is a waste of our money. Your case is indefensible and a disgrace. Use those millions of dollars to fix the elevators. This would be a boon to all New Yorkers. Please get it together, MTA. Elevators are for everyone. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Anna Humphrey.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Anna Humphrey, and I'm the Transportation Community Organizer with the Center for Independence of the Disabled, New York. I'm here today to urge the MTA to continue standing strong in support of congestion pricing. While we applaud the announcement that the state will fully fund the proposed $68 billion MTA capital plan as part of the historic $254 billion state budget agreement, we know that congestion pricing remains a critical piece of the puzzle. Full funding today does not guarantee future funding. Congestion pricing offers a sustainable long-term revenue stream that ensures transit equity is not vulnerable to shifting political winds or political interference. Without congestion pricing, we risk derailing long overdue accessibility improvements. Turning off the cameras would further delay elevator repairs and stall elevator projects that bring dignity and independence to New Yorkers with disabilities. People with disabilities cannot be left waiting again for another capital plan, another funding cycle, another promise. This issue is bigger than budget lines. It's about our values as a city. A fully accessible subway system means access to an independent and fulfilling life for all. It's a human right. Congestion pricing is an opportunity to create a more inclusive and climate-resilient New York where all riders, regardless of ability, can move freely, safely, and sustainably. Thank you.
Chair Lieber, we have allotted the time for this public comment session. At this time, we ask the remaining registered speakers to stand by as we transition to a separate live recording session. If you're a remote public speaker participating on Zoom, please stand by and wait for further instructions from the moderator. Thank you for your cooperation.
Hey, Ruby, I think we started a few minutes late. I'd like you to list another three or four speakers before we move to the film entity.
Sure thing. Our next speaker is Angelique Langdon. Moving on, our next speaker is Freeman X.
Good morning. Good morning. Jano, it was a pleasure that we were able to see you outside earlier this morning. We're here on behalf of the Fair Ain't Fair campaign. The Fair Ain't Fair campaign is a campaign that is demanding that you and your board go back on the decision that y'all made to increase the fare this August and your plans to increase it again in 2027. The people in this room are working class people, poor people, and you are responsible for trying to extract more and more money from us. When you have people here saying that the system says stress-a-ride. Stress-a-ride is not working. Over 400 stations in this city, and less than 200 of them are wheelchair accessible. People are dying under this system. Daryl Mickles was shot in Brownsville, at Sutter Avenue, because the NYPD shot him because he could not afford the $2.90 fare. And last month, y'all sat in here and applauded the NYPD for their fare evasion enforcement tactics. Black people, Latino people make up over 80% of fare evasion ticketing, not because we hop the turnstile more, not because we go through the gate more, but because y'all are condoning the violent enforcement of fares in our communities. In our communities, we are putting you on notice. You and this board will not be raising the fare in August, and we will ensure that does not happen. We will keep showing up. And in the spirit of Malcolm X and his centennial, Malcolm X said, if a man isn't ready to clean up his house, he shouldn't have a house. Stop coming to us to clear your $47 billion debt that the MTA has and start taxing these wealthy corporations, because the poor people in this city will not and cannot afford to pay anymore.
Please conclude your remarks. Our next speaker is Day Peace.
please. I'm also speaking on behalf of the Fair Ain't Fair campaign, concerned about the fact that members of this board here neglect to acknowledge the humanity of people who cannot afford the fare, and recognizing that 1 in 5 New Yorkers are struggling to afford transit to get to work, to get to doctor's appointments, to see their kids, to see their family members. To continue to raise the fare is a war on poverty, is a war on people who are struggling to survive out here. Eggs, rent, everything is going up. So for you to look to us to expect that we are paying more to fund the services of the city when we're already taxed, when it's already coming out of our phone bills, when it's already coming out of all of the money that we're contributing in state taxes and city taxes, for you to continue to ask us for more at the fare box and then to criminalize us when we can't afford it. We're human beings. We're struggling out here. Imagine in yourself and you trying to get through your day-to-day life that you can't afford both to get your kids dinner and then to get home to them. What kind of situation does that put you in? So for you to call those people criminals, think about that ideology. Think about what you're starting to perpetuate as a culture of New York, that the people that are struggling the most are now the offenders.
Our next speaker is Marlo Stosseville.
My name is Marlo. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, which has endorsed the Fair Ain't Fair campaign. And we are here to demand a halt on fare increases. Working class New Yorkers like myself are feeling an increased strain due to fare prices, no matter how well we budget. $130 a month just to get across town, to get to work, school, run errands, on top of the city taxes being pulled from our checks, is unsustainable for so many of us. There is no reason I should be spending as much on the fare as I do on groceries. And this is a sentiment echoed throughout the public every time we do outreach for this campaign. We make it work because we have to, or we risk our safety when we can't. But neither of these options work for the people who need these services the most. Meanwhile, the MTA has a history of failing its audits, and it claims over and over that it needs more income from fares to balance the budget, but we see the truth. That money should be coming from the wealthy, not the poor. We are in one of the richest cities in the world, where billions of dollars are exchanged on Wall Street every day, and we could impose a fraction of a % of a tax on these exchanges to fully fund the MTA and provide these services to the working class at low or no cost. Transportation is a right, and we demand it be treated as such.
Chair Lieber, we have now reached our allotted time for this public comment session. Again, as a reminder, we ask the remaining registered speakers to stand by as we transition to a separate live recording session. If you're a remote public speaker participating on Zoom, please stand by and wait for further instructions from the moderator. Public speakers in the room, please join us in conference room 4. Thank you for your cooperation.
Give folks who have signed up, who have not yet had a chance to speak, to move into conference room. What is it, conference room?
It's room 4.
4, okay. Page. Okay, we're going to move on to the business of the meeting. Paige, do we have a quorum of board members?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I'm going to give my remarks, and then we're going to carry on to the business of the meeting. I want to thank everybody for joining today. I especially want to acknowledge our 2 new MTA board members, Ed Valenti of Acre and Chris Leathers of SMART, who are representing the Metro North and the Long Island Railroad workforce. Welcome. And we'll be talking about one of the outgoing board members and sitting beside you in due course. Listen, harkening back to Monday. On Monday, as usual, We had a very substantive set of committee meetings where we discussed key MTA-wide issues like safety and security, fare collection and fare evasion, and the complex transition to tap and go fare collection. The presentations reconfirmed what I think New Yorkers want to know, which is the MTA is today a high-functioning and fact-based organization. This is a business-like, fact-based institution that is trying to steer away from rhetoric and make sure we're focused on the facts. And the thing is that on most of the stuff that matters, the facts really are heading in the right direction. On ridership, we're up 7% this year on the subways. Remember, we worked our tails off to make sure that the subway system and the whole mass transit system was high functioning so that New York could recover from the pandemic, and it's happening. 14% up on buses. Metro North and Long Island Railroad, 9 and 10% up versus last year. Big numbers on the ridership increase. Overall, across the system, year-to-date ridership is up 8% versus the comparable period in 2024. And it's not just because of congestion pricing. All the rhetoric about you're forcing people onto the system. Let me remind everybody, there are 130-something thousand people who drive to the central business district a day. We have 4 million riders. The drivers, the numbers of drivers who are coming on mass transit, we welcome them. We have great service for them, but they are not the ones moving the dial. And the proof that it's quality service that is having a great impact on ridership is in paratransit, where we're up 20% over last year. And last year was a 20% increase. So service on our system is what's, I'm proud to say, driving ridership. And on-time performance, okay, we have a lot of different, okay, growing ridership. On-time performance, ta-da. Probably the biggest factor in growth, as I was saying, is that we are collectively knocking it out of the park on-time performance. Demetrius, best subway service since 2013. Give it up for Demetrius, Bill Amorosa, and the whole subway team. There are thousands and thousands of men and women who work every day to make sure we deliver quality service. The buses are picking up speed, thanks not only to congestion pricing, but also because of the increased application of automatic camera enforcement, and soon the Queens bus network redesign, which really gives us an opportunity to speed service in the most bus-dependent part of our city. Long Island Railroad and Metro North, again, OTP, almost 97% on Long Island Railroad, 98+% on Metro North. These are literally historic numbers. And we're doing it all with less. I understand that the rhetoric about the MTA is wasteful, the MTA is this, the MTA is that, but here are the facts. We have become a dramatically more cost-efficient agency in the last couple of years. Regular viewers of these proceedings know my favorite fact. Ladies and gentlemen, no matter what you hear on Fox News, the MTA is operating 3% lower budget than it was before the pandemic, and we're providing a ton more service. On the railroads, 40% on the Long Island Railroad, 14 subway lines, more service. More bus service. It was announced last week that we're increasing it even further. Hundreds more elevators to maintain. Lower budget, more elevators. And by the way, don't forget, we're operating that 700,000 square foot Long Island Railroad terminal we call Grand Central Madison. All that's happening at a lower budget cost. What other government agency is able to say that they're doing that? And we are proud of it. And I know we're hearing a lot of heat this morning from the podium, and I respect those folks, but we are making headway on safety issues. We talked a lot about on Monday about how fare evasion, which is a huge source of public concern. It's not just MTA. This is not just coming from the MTA. Fare evasion is down, and if you look at the data, so is crime, 16% lower than last year. No question that we still are struggling to overcome the impact in the public mind of high-profile and very disturbing incidents. And we have a long way to go before New Yorkers truly feel safe on the subway, given what they're seeing on some of the media. But thanks to investments made by Governor Hochul and to our partnership, and I don't shy away from saying it, our partnership with the NYPD under this police commissioner, the numbers are moving in the right direction. And Jamie, C&D is banging out the capital work. More elevators, new electric buses, the Rockaway Resiliency Project, which is a thing of wonder, completely rebuilding that viaduct, which has been allowed to rot for 100 years. A brand new East Yaphank Long Island Railroad Station. The list goes on, and we're going to keep seeing more of that. And don't forget the best example of MTA competency, and I'm not shy about saying it, that's congestion pricing. Now, almost 4 months in, the program is achieving all of its goals. Quieter streets, faster travel, less congestion, safer streets, and increased economic growth. There are more people coming to the Central Business District year over year in the era of congestion pricing. But not to forget, our implementation of this complex initiative was right on the money. The software, the cameras, the bureaucratic side of making sure it all linked up to the easy passes, it all went down exactly as planned, and the public saw immediate perceptible benefits. How often does government pull that off? To take a major initiative, to execute it pretty close to perfectly, and all immediately the public is saying, hey, this is hugely improving things. And how often do the public opinion polls on controversial issues flip almost immediately? That's congestion pricing. And I recognize that in the social media and press ecosystem that we live in, tabloids especially, the facts are not always going to win out entirely, but we're going to keep talking about the facts anyway on this issue, because the business-like fact-based approach that we have been taking is the reason that this week the MTA and New Yorkers are getting the capital program that we need and deserve. And we did the work. The credit goes in large part to this board, because you participated with us all along. We did the work, first with that state-mandated 20-year needs assessment. 2 years of work yielded assessment of 6 million assets and components, the whole MTA system, never done before. And we used that to chart out investments needed to achieve the goal that my predecessor, Dick Ravitch, set and dreamed of 40 years ago, a true state of good repair for this amazing system. We made the case, and then we condensed all those findings into that $68.4 billion 2025 to 29 capital plan. We went out and talked to people. We held countless open houses. We started a campaign that went from here to Albany to make sure everybody understood what is at stake. What's at stake is that New York's priceless 100-plus-year-old system, the linchpin of our economy, and I dare say the linchpin of our way of life in this region, cannot be left to rot any longer. We cannot let it fall apart. That's what's been happening. We tried that approach. It gave us the 1970s. I was here. I grew up in the New York where the legendary subway system covered with graffiti that broke down every 5 minutes, that all of us kids knew, don't take a chance to wait for a train if there's one going in the general direction, because the other train ain't coming. That was where we were. And there started to be major improvements in the early 1980s under Ravitch and Kiley, but there was after that a pattern of underinvestment that resumed, that led us straight to the summer of hell in 2017 when the system collapsed. And New Yorkers were left standing on subway platforms, 30 deep. We cannot let that happen again. We ain't going back, and we're going forward. And the reason we are, and I'm going to say it loud and clear, is because Kathy Hochul listens to facts and evidence and takes on the political complexity of making sure that we do the right thing by the MTA. She is the one who committed to and has, under her leadership and in tandem with a very pro-transit legislature, now secured full funding for the 25 to 29 capital program. I'm going to ask for applause from this board for that. You know that historically the MTA tends to be agnostic about how Albany, as long as they fund us, we're agnostic. But I got to say, you know, and we've talked to the legislature about a wide range of different ideas, and I just want to tip a hat to Kevin Willens and Jay Patel for being a real source of creativity and policy-making leadership in the discussion with the legislature. You guys did an amazing job. But, thank you. But I just want to say, you know, I'm not agnostic. I do support the core concept proposed in the governor's budget framework for the MTA, which is that the biggest employers who want us to run a huge amount of service, they want us to run more service and better service than we did pre-COVID, even though realistically they're letting a significant portion of their workforce come to work 3 days a week, 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. That is, in fairness, the right place to look for support of this capital plan. And I have to say, I also think it makes sense to combine doing that with cutting the PMT, cutting the taxes that are asked for from smaller companies and nonprofits who are employers also. So the smaller companies and the nonprofits and the government agencies that are employers are paying less PMT. And let's not forget that this budget also cuts taxes on working class and middle class people and sends a rebate. There are all kinds of people who are trying to characterize this MTA deal one way or the other. But let me tell you, yeah, I am comfortable that we're getting a little more from big employers, but that individual New Yorkers who are dependent on transit, those are our riders, are also going to get a tax cut. Yes, this deal is a historic victory for riders and for the MTA, not just because it enables us to execute on the capital plan, but because it established a new norm in Albany, and you all helped to accomplish this, that the MTA's $1.5 trillion system, that's what it's worth, $1.5 trillion, must receive sustained investment and modernization. Neil, who does business analysis for a living as his day job, reminds us that the standards are you got to be spending 1% a year. And we're not even spending that, but we're getting there, and that is a commitment that I think we now have from Albany. Whether the MTA capital budget is technically part of the state budget or not, which always drives me crazy, but Albany has acknowledged that it must be fully funded when it comes up every 5 years. And here's the punchline: for the first time ever, there wasn't debate about the substance of the plan because we laid out the merits and what needed to be invested in such detail and in such a thorough way. There was only discussion about how to fund it, and that too is a milestone that we should treat as an important precedent. Listen, this capital plan is going to deliver for New Yorkers. There may be fewer bright and shiny baubles. There may be fewer expansion projects than there were in the past. Guilty as charged. But investing in state of good repair will have huge and direct benefits for the lives of New Yorkers. It may be less sexy, but it's going to help New Yorkers in ways that they recognize. Modern subway signals mean less time sitting in tunnels because of that announcement our riders hate to hear: signal trouble up ahead. New rolling stock means that folks are less likely to get forced out of a subway car that's going out of service because it's got a mechanical problem. We know that old cars break down 6 times as frequently as new cars. We got to get rid of those cars that are well past their lifespan. And the infrastructure upgrades that are part of this capital program, albeit unsexy, albeit not visible to every rider, mean that there are going to be fewer instances where, as we had recently, a power substation blows up and a whole line has to be taken down for hours or days or even weeks. No secret. This capital plan is principally about state of good repair. But I don't want to talk down expansion across the board, because I am thrilled that the Interborough Express is getting a big step forward. Everybody knows that it is insane that the two largest counties in the state of New York, Brooklyn and Queens. Brooklyn has as many people in it. I'm a Brooklynite. We got as many people almost as the city of Chicago in that one county. And we have so few rail connections between those two boroughs, the function of history. Now we're going to get a new 14-mile-long rail line, and we're going to build it on an existing right-of-way. I love this. We don't always need to build new tunnels to get a line expansion. Let's get more service out of the infrastructure we already have. That is the idea behind Penn Access. Let's turn the Hellgate line into a commuter railroad line. And it's the idea behind the Interborough Express. Huge opportunity to expand and to do it in a way that will be tremendously cost efficient. Speaking of efficiency, Albany recognized another key cost-saving initiative that we had proposed, which is to do more of our capital construction using our in-house forces, our MTA employees, who are not only able to do certain types of work much more quickly and efficiently than hiring outside contractors, but let's be honest, they are the heart and soul of this operation. I'm thrilled that we're going to be adding significant jobs to our in-house operation in order to accomplish these type of savings on much work. We are already putting out advertisements for new positions. Shanifa Riera, our customer team, and our HR team under Lizette and Mercida are doing advertising for hiring. That's a picture of me meeting with the whole class at Transit Tech in Grand. They were getting a tour of Grand Central, and we went to talk to them about the career opportunities to come work at the MTA. I love this. Let's get more New York kids. We've created this huge, Lizette has created a huge internship program for CUNY students. Let's get more New York kids who know the system, who feel connected to the system, working at the MTA, getting a middle-class life by coming to a secure position at the MTA. It's one thing that gives me great hope in this capital budget. Now, with this budget framework now in place, we're moving full speed ahead. First step, update the capital program so that the board can vote on it. You know that there was a veto at the end of last year that we now need to correct, but also to include in that the strategies for the MTA to, in effect, self-fund $3 billion of the $68.4 billion. That was an element of the deal with the legislature. Back in February, you got a great presentation from Jamie Torres-Springer about how C&D has already figured out how to save, coincidence it's the same number, $3 billion, just by redoing the scope and some of the engineering strategy and the procurement strategies on our existing capital program that just expired. And for example, thanks to this work, we're able to deliver escalators at 22% lower cost than we were able to in the past. We're getting better and we're saving money. Just one example. The 25 to 29 plan calls for completing a lot more core infrastructure projects, power substations, signal structure, ADA stations than ever before. That's because we are doing them more cheaply. Bigger scope at the same or lower cost. And so we welcome the challenge that the legislature and the governor have put to us to do projects faster, even better, and even cheaper. But we intend to deliver the full $68.4 billion of work to you as part of our commitment to the plan that you have already endorsed. And we're getting started right now. The budget framework allows us to hit go on new signals on the Fulton and Liberty portions of the A and the C in Brooklyn and Queens. That was the whole issue of new signals was a topic of a New York Times deep dive recently. And also on the next phase of work on the Grand Central train shed for Metro North. Jamie's been working with JP Morgan Chase to to expand the scope of what work they're doing, since they're already down in the train shed working on their new building. And we want to start with accessibility and station renewals on the Long Island Railroad. There's several projects that are kicking off right away now that we have this capital program in place. Time is of the essence for the work. You know, we can't sit around. I'm not waiting until all the ink and everything in Albany is dry. We're in go mode. And I am thrilled that this new MTA is now in a position, ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the $68.4 billion capital program that you all endorsed, that the MTA staff have shaped, and that's going to turn around service for generations of New Yorkers. So with that, let me turn it over to, who's doing the next? I lost what? Rob. Okay, so we're going to go from the great news to the headaches. Let me just remind all of us that we had a discussion earlier this week, about Amtrak's planned closure of the East River Tunnel. And there was a discussion that broke out among board members about what do we do? The governor has written to Amtrak and spoken about it. The county executive of Nassau County sent a strong letter to Amtrak. When the governor and the county executive of Nassau are on the same page, that's a special occasion. It tells you something. And even, you know, some of our suburban congressmen who are in the majority in Congress, who, you know, mostly pay attention to the MTA to grouch about congestion pricing, have actually spoken on this issue. So it's time for Rob, if you would just recap for us where we are on that.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good morning, board members. As the chairman mentioned on Monday, the issue of Amtrak's long-term East River Tunnel outage was briefly discussed. Since then, the Governor Hochul, and Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman have weighed in on this important and urgent issue, so we thought it would be helpful to provide this board with a little history and context of the issue. This issue is of critical importance to not only Long Island Railroad riders, but all users of Penn Station as well. The MTA and Long Island Railroad have been engaged in monitoring this project for years, sharing our concerns with Amtrak both in written correspondence as well as in-person meetings. As the tunnel outage nears, we are increasingly concerned that this outage could have significant impacts on Long Island Railroad customers. In light of this, I'd like to provide you with some insight and what I think are the biggest areas of concern. The territory between Harold Interlocking and Penn Station is the busiest stretch of railroad in the United States, and Penn Station is the busiest terminal in North America. Amtrak operates passenger service from up north through the territory to southern locations, carrying only approximately 9,000 customers daily. Amtrak and New Jersey Transit both run non-revenue trains to or from Sunnyside Yard to Penn Station. Long Island Railroad also operates both passenger and non-revenue equipment trains into Penn Station through the East River tunnels, the most of any of the three carriers. That stretch from Penn Station to Harold Interlocking, including the 4 East River tunnels, is owned by Amtrak. This means that any work that takes place in this environment requires three-party cooperation, but is ultimately the decision of Amtrak. There we go. The aftermath of Superstorm Sandy back in 2012 caused widespread destruction, including flooding of several tunnels in the region. Unfortunately, 2 of the 4 East River tunnels were flooded as well, which Amtrak must repair. You may recall the MTA also experienced flooding issues which required significant repairs. A total of 9 East River crossings needed repairs, including the Canarsie and Rutgers tunnels. The difference is that Amtrak is performing the work with a continuous outage, meaning shutting down each tunnel to make repairs, as opposed to the method the MTA utilized by performing the work in phases without shutting down the tunnels entirely. Amtrak's position is that a phased approach is not possible and a full shutdown is required. Here's a diagram of how the East River tunnels are situated and used. It's actually quite ingenious how they were designed. As you can see, lines 2 and 3, we say about mid-river, cross over each other. This way it gives you full access to Penn Station from all the tunnels. As you can see, the East River tunnels consist of 4 tubes, lines 1 through 4. Lines 3 and 4 are primarily used by the Long Island Railroad, and lines 1 and 2 are primarily used by Amtrak and New Jersey Transit. Again, Amtrak owns the infrastructure, but the Long Island Railroad is by far the biggest user, with approximately 461 trains a day using the East River tunnels, with well over 125,000 customers a day. Due to the flooding in lines 1 and 2 that are in need of repair, Amtrak's plan is to first take line 2 out of service entirely for 13 months and perform a complete reconstruction of the inner components of the tunnels. Things such as new tracks, new catenary, cabling, signals, and new bench walls. Then after a 6-month break, they'll take line 1 out of service for another 13 months for similar rehabilitation. I wish it was minutes. While each line is taken out of service, Amtrak will operate their passenger trains in line 3 and 4 with Long Island Railroad trains, which increases train traffic in those tunnels. Knowing this work would be taking place, the Long Island Railroad designed its schedules to accommodate the outages when we opened Grand Central Madison more than 2 years ago, as it seemed the work was nearly ready to begin. With the tunnel closure, trains will be operating very close together for most of the rush hour periods, which leaves little to no room for error. The slightest deviation could have significant impacts to our operations reliability, including possible shutdowns of service depending on the issue. And that is why we are extremely concerned with this outage and what it means to our customers. In an attempt to mitigate our concerns, we have been communicating with Amtrak, requesting details of their plans to address them. Specifically, we've asked them for 3 things: requesting clarity on what they are doing today to thoroughly inspect existing infrastructure, to make sure it's in good condition, make necessary repairs to reduce the risk of failure. We've asked Amtrak to limit maintenance work on the 3 tunnels that are in service during the overnights while the work is taking place on the out-of-service tunnel. We basically asked them to perform only critical maintenance work during that period to reduce the chance of any disruption to the morning commute. Finally, we've asked Amtrak what they are doing to provide oversight during the outage, especially critical points of failure, to provide quick responses and repairs in the event of an infrastructure failure. We are trying to work with Amtrak to review their plans and provide input to ensure our operation is protected to the extent it can be during this extremely risky extended outage, and are awaiting firm dates as to when the outage will begin in light of other predecessor work that needs to be completed. So I just want to summarize what our main concerns are with this outage and how they're progressing. First, we're continuing to provide the high levels of service that we do right now with a reduced capacity, reduced infrastructure. So that means the same number of trains in less tunnels. We have the most at risk here. We're the biggest carrier into the terminal, have the most customers, and operate the most trains. So any failure will impact our customers at a much higher degree. The limited infrastructure will exacerbate issues such as infrastructure failures, even small ones, leading to possible delays, cancellations, and possible shutdowns of service. We're also concerned with hardening work to ensure the infrastructure is maintained before the outage takes place. And as I mentioned, maintenance work during the outage to ensure that the AM peak periods are not disrupted. And then oversight to protect the operation during the outage. So basically, we're looking for clarity, intensity, and urgency on their part. The chairman mentioned summer of hell earlier. That phrase was originally coined with the Amtrak issues that took place in the summer of 2017 when they experienced a significant number of derailments in Penn Station. At that particular time, we worked very closely with Amtrak And at the Long Island Railroad, we adjusted our schedules, provided our own maintenance, and it really became a successful program. We're looking for the same outcome in this outage as well. And finally, the MTA and the Long Island Railroad have made significant improvements to our operation, both in terms of mega projects being completed on time and on budget, but also providing safe, reliable, and customer-focused service to our over 265,000 average daily customers. We owe it to those customers to ensure we are doing everything we can to continue to provide record levels of on-time performance and convenient schedules that meet their needs. This project, as currently scheduled, will jeopardize that. And that concludes my report.
Okay. This is an issue that's been growing, caused growing concern in many different quarters. And the board discussion that took place on Monday led to the drafting of a board resolution, which I'm going to ask Paige to read out, and then I'll take a motion on it, and we'll have followed by discussion. Paige?
The resolution reads as follows. Whereas the two East River tunnel tubes predominantly used by Amtrak trains suffered damage from the 2012 Superstorm Sandy, and whereas Amtrak is belatedly planning to commence a large-scale rehabilitation project using a full shutdown to accommodate work, and whereas the MTA urged Amtrak to consider adopting the night and weekend shutdown approach that cut 6 months off the schedule and $100 million off the budget in the L Train Tunnel project, and similarly impressive results on the Rutgers Tube project. And whereas Amtrak declined to follow the strategy favored by the MTA, instead insisting upon a full shutdown of the two tunnels over a 3-year period. And whereas the Long Island Railroad has expressed deep misgivings in recent discussion with Amtrak about its readiness to successfully execute the full shutdown plan without impacting not only its own Empire Line service to Albany, but also Long Island Railroad service. And whereas Governor Kathy Hochul had publicly stated her own concerns about the impact of the aforementioned reductions in Amtrak service to Albany and risks to Long Island Railroad service, and whereas Amtrak is facing significant personnel cuts which further endanger its ability to deliver on the project, and whereas the board has considered all of the above, now and therefore, upon motion which will be duly made and second, the following resolution will be adopted, and that's the request, a recommendation that it's adopted by the board. Resolved that the board calls on Amtrak to reconsider its plan to adopt a full shutdown as its strategy for the rehabilitation of two East River tunnels, and be it further resolved that Amtrak reopen discussions with its design professionals and its contractor about the possibility of adjusting scope in such a way as to facilitate the proven overnight and weekend shutdown approach that would limit the risks of impacts to Amtrak service and Long Island Railroad commuter service.
So you have a long resolution ending in a clear statement of what this board could ask of Amtrak if we all agree to it. I'll take a motion. Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we adopt this resolution.
Okay. Is there a second? Mr. Mack, seconding? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Anybody wishing to be heard? Mr. Herbst, first of all.
Yes, thank you. Rob, thank you for that presentation. I really appreciate the information that you provide us. The one uncertainty, and I just can't find an answer or an explanation from Amtrak, is why are they choosing the total shutdown as opposed to phasing it Nowhere, I understand, in the creation of the world does anybody shut down the entire system without serving their customers. So is there an explanation that you have heard from Amtrak?
I myself have not heard anything specific. Jamie, I don't know if you want to touch on it. I think it was in terms of length of outage and what they felt in the scope of work itself. But Jamie, I'll leave it to you if you want.
I can share that the scope of the work was developed in response to the damage to the tunnels from Sandy and the repairs that are required to the specifically the bench walls and the full replacement of track. But I think what's been discussed by the chair and others is that there are alternative ways of achieving some of those objectives.
I mean, the simple answer is you got to adjust your scope so that you don't create an environment that requires a full shutdown.
They've had over 12
If you
years.
have to demolish everything, everything in the tunnel, all of a sudden you're creating an environment where between the debris and the air quality impacts, you can't run service during the daytime. And that's what we were urging. That's what was done in the Canarsie project and the Rutgers project, which is to adjust the scope so that you could do the work and on nights and weekends and preserve the tunnel environment for operations in the daytime and in the peak.
Okay. As comparison between the services, Amtrak, of course, wants to run their service. Our on-time performance has always been in the high 90s. What is Amtrak's on-time performance?
I'm not particularly worried about Amtrak's on-time performance. I'm sorry, but I'm concerned with the Long Island Railroad's on-time performance, and we're at 97%, and that's why the Long Island Railroad fully supports this resolution to perform the work at nights and weekends. There's risk with any type of outage, but we also have to maintain the level of service that we do for our customers, and we fully support this.
And I thank you for doing that.
Any others wishing to be heard? Sammy Chu is online, and followed by Mr. Glucksman.
I just want to, wholeheartedly take the opportunity to wholeheartedly agree with this resolution. It's extremely concerning, and I think it's what's evident by the prior conversation that Mark initiated. I think the MTA has become, probably the most expert transit agency in the country at, performing these major overhauls without service interruption or minimizing service interruption. So I think also to Mark's point, this has taken a lot of time to get here. I think there's still plenty of time to reconsider, for Amtrak to reconsider and consult more deeply with the MTA to make sure we're doing this in a way that, minimizes interruptions and not just the service interruptions, but, something that's vital to the continued success of commerce and growth, in the region. So I think this is important. And I know there are a lot of, the chairman mentioned a lot of, legislators and stakeholders that have stepped up. I think this is something that if it's not on people's radar, that it should be. And certainly this is a time to speak up and really absorb how much this can negatively impact our service.
Okay. Mr. Glucksman, Mr. Albert, and Mr. Brinkman.
Yeah, all absent from the discussion, and I don't know the number, but I know there have to be dozens of New Jersey Transit trains that lay up after the peak hour into Sunnyside Yard and come back as put-ins in the peak hour in the evening. That also complicates things with having one less tube.
Yeah, no, this presentation did mention that. Thank you. Mr. Albert.
Yes, thank you. On Rob's presentation, one of the graphs showed which tubes were relegated to Amtrak service, which tubes were relegated to Long Island Railroad service. Has any discussion been happening with Amtrak to say if they go ahead with their unfortunate plan to completely shut down a tube, that they would allow the Long Island Railroad to use each of the other tubes and not be restricted to only the tubes that they were using before?
Andrew, we said primarily use, so on a normal basis, we use, particularly during the rush hours, we'll use all 4 tunnels, right? But primarily we use lines 3 and 4. With this outage, right, one of the tunnels that Amtrak uses will be completely taken out of service for 13 months, so we won't have access to that. The other tunnel, Line 1, will in essence be used as a shuttle for Amtrak and New Jersey Transit trains to traverse back and forth to Sunnyside Yard to the station. So that's why we're relegated to basically now, even during the rush hours, just Line 3 and Line 4.
I got it. Thank you.
Mr. Brinkman.
While I don't have a vote, I do want to go on record as saying that I fully support the resolution. And I would hope that we could offer some consulting services to Amtrak since we've done it. We know how to get it done. And I have a feeling that that's their concern, is they don't know how to do it and keep service going. So I'm just hoping we can make that offer to them. Thank you.
Point taken. Anybody else wishing to be heard? Mr. Zuckerman.
I'm glad we're doing this, and Mark, I really admire your advocacy for your riders out in Suffolk County. It's a burden. And Mr. Chair, you mentioned a couple of times the remarkable nature of the bipartisan support of this ask of Amtrak's. And your Bruce Blakeman comment was humorous and simultaneously quite depressing to me, because I think there's alignment among the New York delegation and among politicians that we can get this one thing out of Washington. It's great. I mean, I want to see Amtrak serve us as well. But I guess I'm in the aftermath of the budget being passed in Albany, which is a wonderful thing, and our congestion pricing working well, and our capital plan being funded. I don't know why we can't have the same kind of bipartisan support out of Washington to demand what New York needs. I don't know why we fight so much and constantly arguing about whether we should have congestion pricing, whether we should have the funding needed to support New York. I don't understand why it's not a bipartisan topic to help New York. Why is this the one topic? And I hate to say it, while 13 months is a ridiculously long time, it is both a minor topic simultaneously relative to our $68 billion capital plan. And so I would encourage all our stakeholders to look for many other bipartisan opportunities to support New York, support the MTA, and not just on a relatively narrow operational topic. I want to focus on the decades of underfunding of New York relative to the rest of the country. I want us to see if we can bipartisanly focus on helping New York stay the economic engine of the nation and maybe the world. And so if maybe one little resolution about Amtrak is a starting point, cool. I suspect it's not. I'd like to see a lot more bipartisanship.
All right, I don't know if amen is an official Robert's Rule of Order response, but that's my response to Mr. Zuckerman's comment. Anybody else wishing to be heard before we vote on this? Okay, there's a motion and a second motion on the floor. All in favor of the resolution? Any opposition or abstention? The resolution is carried. Thank you. Before we go on to board business, another complicated issue that has emerged, update on the labor situation in New Jersey, which may have implications for especially our Metro North customers west of Hudson. Justin Vonishek, the president of Metro North, is here to talk about that. Joseph.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members of the board. So as many of you may know, New Jersey Transit has been in contract negotiations with their locomotive engineers for some time now, and unfortunately we're at a point now where they're planning for a potential strike on Friday, May 16th at 12:01 a.m. So since NJT operates Metro North service west of Hudson, this means potential severe impacts for our customers on the Port Jervis and Pascack Valley lines. So I'm here this morning to talk about how we're preparing for such a possibility and the options we're going to be providing to our customers. So just to quickly go over where we're at in terms of service on NJT's West of Hudson service right now, or Metro North's West of Hudson service. Currently 64 trains a day operate on both the lines, and they carry about 2,000 customers. So that's just over 1% of our overall ridership for Metro North. So in an event of a strike, none of these customers will have service west of Hudson. So fortunately for those customers though, they will have access to great alternative service just across the river on Metro North East of Hudson service. So what are we going to do? First, we're going to cross-honor all west of Hudson tickets on both the Harlem and Hudson lines. We're also going to honor west of Hudson parking at 5 of our stations: Cortland, Beacon, New Hamburg, Poughkeepsie, and North White Plains. There's also going to be free ferry and west of Hudson, Hudson Link bus connections for our west of Hudson ticket holders. And while most of our Hudson Line trains have the additional capacity needed, we're going to go ahead and add additional cars on many of our trains to account for any additional ridership that we see with customers coming over from west of Hudson. And as always, we'll continue to monitor ridership, and if we need to adjust, we'll be ready to do so. So we just want to give a couple examples of what this means for some of our west of Hudson customers. So customers coming from Salisbury Mills to the city. So currently, they have 5 a.m. rush hour trains. Takes nearly 90 minutes to reach Penn Station with a transfer at Secaucus Station. So alternatively now, that same customer could drive to Beacon Station, have free parking, they'll have 12 a.m. rush hour trains to choose from, a 1-seat ride, and 78 minutes to Grand Central. Now it's important to note also that on-time performance on the Hudson Line is 99%. You compare that to west of Hudson, it's in the low 90s. Now, one more example for our Pascack Valley customers coming out of Nanuet. They have 9 rush hour trains in the morning, takes 84 minutes to reach Penn. Again, 2-seat ride, again, low 90s on-time performance. That same customer can now travel to Palisade Center Park and Ride, hop a Hudson Link bus to White Plains, and there they'll have 28 options to get to Grand Central in the morning rush, 36 minutes with a 99% on-time performance. So many great options for our west of Hudson customers that are interested in coming east of Hudson. So look, I mean, there's no question that a strike west of Hudson will be extremely disruptive to our customers, but we are doing everything that we can to minimize that impact. In fact, we believe that in many cases, customers will be pleasantly surprised to learn how convenient it is to travel across the Hudson and use our east of Hudson service with more frequent and reliable service. So while we hope there is no strike and no impact to our west of Hudson customers, we will be prepared for the strike if NJT decides to move forward. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Super presentation. Not a secret that the Metro service west of Hudson is New Jersey Transit Service, and that means that our ability to improve things as much as we would like has been constrained. And this is an opportunity for some of those customers to find equal or better transit options to get to the city. And we're going to try to show them what those are. Anita, is there anything you want to add? Because you've been monitoring this very closely.
No, I think Justin covered all of the operational concerns and items that we're looking to address on the labor relations front. We're working with our internal and external legal groups, as well as the operating departments and our labor unions as we monitor this as it proceeds. And again, I think everybody is of one voice that we hope that we don't need it, but we'll be prepared.
Luxman was asking to be recognized, followed by Ms. Valdivia.
Thank you. Great presentation. The option for using the service to Tarrytown is also going to be available. Is that correct? Because you just mentioned to White Plains.
Correct. That was just one example.
All right. Thank you.
Randy, being a little parochial about your own commute, I take it. Yeah. Okay. We got it, Randy. Ms. Valdivia.
Thank you for monitoring this situation closely. Question, do we expect to see any operating expense increases given, the alternatives? It seems like there's nothing additional you're all providing, just ensuring that there is connections and the people understand the connections available.
That's correct. If there's any cost, it would be extremely minimal for the additional cars added, but that's it.
To your point, we'll send New Jersey Transit a bill. Don't worry. Okay. Any other comments? Anyone else wants to be heard on this? If not, we'll run through our normal, regular board business. The minutes of the March board meeting and the minutes from each committee have been distributed. Are there any corrections or omissions? Mr. Albert.
I won't go into the grammatical things, but on page 6, board.
Page 6 of the Post or page? No, okay, go ahead.
No.
Okay.
No, of the minutes. Board members is spelled B-O-R-D. At least it isn't spelled B-O-R-E-D, but it should be B-O-A-R-D, obviously.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Let the game. This is exactly autocorrect, as Mr. Albert. Okay, with those changes, the minutes are approved as distributed and corrected. Thank you, Mr. Albert. Let me start it off. On Monday, I chaired a joint meeting of the Metro North and Long Island Railroad Committee, as well as the New York City Transit and the Bridges and Tunnels Committee and the Capital Program Committee. We had Super Committee Day. There were no items for the railroads and no items for bridges and tunnels. Board Member Joshi, would you provide us with the this month's report on capital programs?
Sure. The Capital Program Committee met jointly with the Operating Committees Monday and reports the following. Construction and Development has 5 items for a proposed expenditure of $27.2 million. The Joint Operating Committee recommends these items, and I move them.
Okay. Second, Ms. Dr. Rizzo, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items are approved.
Moving to New York City Transit agenda, there's one ratification item for an expenditure of $1.7 million. The committee recommends this item, and I move it.
Second, Ms. Soren, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The item is carried.
And this concludes the Joint Operating Committee report.
Mr. Zuckerman, the Finance Committee.
Thank you, sir. The Finance Committee met Monday, and among other things discussed, we received a report on the 3rd month of successful financial returns from congestion pricing. We also report the following. The procurement agenda includes 3 actions for a proposed estimate expenditure of $24 million. The committee recommends these items, and I move them, noting that I recuse myself from item number 1.
Okay, but we have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Fleischer, all in favor? Any opposition? Another recusal to be noted.
Yes, on the matter of the MTA Governor's Risk Compliance System, I recuse myself on this item.
So 2 recusals. I need a second on the items. Mr. Herbst, thank you. All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items are approved. Mr. Zuckerman.
Yes, on real estate, we have 2 administrative items and 2 transaction items this month. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
Motion, second, Ms. Soren, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The real estate items are approved.
Thank you. This concludes the Finance Committee report.
Okay. And there's an item of business that needs to be handled in an executive session. May I have a motion well, I will do. They just said, do you want to do Norman? No, that's a locution that I did not expect. So yes, I do want to. Before we go into executive session and people start to wander away, let's talk about Norman Brown. All right, we can't end the meeting without acknowledging a huge and bittersweet milestone, the retirement of legendary longtime board member Norman Brown. Norman has dedicated decades of his life to championing the workforce at Metro North and other places. He is a machinist himself by trade. Some of us have heard very technical stories about that as we consume what passes for breakfast over there in that room. But mostly he's a champion of the workforce and of the riders who rely on the MTA system. The combination of shop floor experience and policy know-how, because he has policy chops, this dude, brought a rare perspective to this board and its activities. And as we all know from his somewhat infrequent but always searching participation in MTA board meetings, Norman is a truth teller. This is something that is really special in a public setting. Norman is a truth teller, and he's unafraid to level with everybody and to do it without political sugarcoating. It has been a blessing to have somebody of that kind on this board and to participate in debates with him. And I got to say, is there anybody else whose daily reading diet includes the entire New York press, plus the chief leader, and 3 or 4 European papers in their original languages? Nobody like him. Norman On behalf of the entire MTA, the leadership, past, present, and future, I need to thank you for your tremendous service, your partnership, your friendship to the MTA, to its riders, and to its workforce. We wish you all the best. Thank you. Okay, now that we've embarrassed you, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, well, there usually is. But, you know, first of all, I want to thank the workforce at Metro North, particularly the union leadership and the represented workers at Metro North who trusted me to speak for them for the last 2 decades. And we have a great replacement in Ed Valente here, and I'm sure he's going to add his own perspective as time goes on, you know. And I want to thank too the leadership of the organization, the staff, the entirely competent staff who take abuse every minute they work for the MTA and continue on with you know, speaking truth to power. And then too, there's you know, other people who I've depended on to give me my punchlines. And you know, I really it's really been a wonderful experience for me, and it's been a combination of the highest achievement in my professional life and the biggest pain in the ass I have left. So you know, it's I feel you're going in the right direction here, more than going in the right direction. I think you've cleared up a lot of the problems that have eaten away at us for many years. I regret only that I'm not around to help you spend that $68 billion. But thank you very much for the, it's nice to have people say nice things about you, especially when it's entirely accomplished people who I very much respect. So thank you for all your support over all these many years and for laughing at my jokes.
So I said it before, but there will always be, we'll always set aside some locks for you in the in the breakfast display, on the hope that you'll come back and visit us. So, moving from the sacred to the profane, may I renew my request for a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Fleischer, thank you. Second, Ms. Soren, we are into executive session. Technically, you have to, but you don't. say into the record, while in executive session, the board took up labor agreements and voted favorably on the labor agreements. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Herbst. Second, Mr. Garodnik. Hearing no opposition, we are in adjournment. Thank you. Okay. I'm ecstatic. This is a huge moment for the MTA. What Albany has done is said, we're going to make a massive investment in New York, and the investment's going to benefit the riders. The riders are the ones who are going to see new subway cars, because you don't have your trip delayed because cars discharged from service because it broke down. The riders are the ones who are going to see, that more announcements. We're going to stay here because there's signal problems ahead. The riders are the ones who are going to benefit the most, and for Albany to recognize that a state of good repair program like we put up that's focused on fixing and maintaining the existing system is a huge step forward. So I am thrilled. This is a high point for the MTA. Subway service is the best it's been in more than a dozen years. Long Island Railroad Metro North service is historic on-time performance. Safety is up on the numbers. I know we have a long way to go to make New Yorkers truly feel safe, but things are headed in the right direction under this police commissioner and in a partnership with the NYPD. And I'm going to keep saying it, the MTA is one of the few government agencies that can say, no Doge, but we're 3% less than we were before COVID, even though we provide a ton more service than we did. So this is a high point for the MTA, and I consider what's happening a vote of confidence in the MTA, and more important, a commitment to our riders and to New York and to our business community. So with that, Tim, let her rip.
All right, let's start the questioning today with Andrew Siff of WNBC. He's here with Justin Laub today. Andrew.
Chairman, good afternoon. Does the approval of the capital plan mean that the list of items you gave us last fall are exactly intact? That was essentially 1,500 new subway cars, 500 buses, 60 accessible stations, and the Interborough Express. Is that now?
Yeah, it's the same capital program we laid out. This is what the capital program that was the result of, years of study, detailed assessment of the system, and that we went out and made the case that we need to make these investments. It is that capital program.
So just as a quick follow-up, so what's your message to the riders? You said this is good news for riders. So when will people first see and experience proof that this $68 billion is money well spent? When will they feel it?
Right now, riders are seeing every couple weeks new stations opening with ADA elevators. They're seeing new subway cars come in every day. The new R211s are coming in. We're just going to be continuing the steps that riders want us to make, which is make give me more service and give me more reliable service. That's what we're doing. It's no secret we're also adding one major project, which is finally we're going to be connecting Brooklyn and Queens directly through a major subway line with the IBX. And that is a game changer for the two most populous counties in the state and maybe among the most populous counties in the country. So that's the major new project, but everything else is let's make the system more reliable to give riders better, more frequent service.
All right, let's move on to Stephanos Chen of the New York Times. We'll get you, Mike.
The budget and how it's fully funded. Oh, there it is. Hi. So there's still the $14 billion question with the federal contribution to the plan. I know that we are fully funded as per Hochul, but there is the threat still that some portion of that may be withheld or held up by the federal government. Could you describe first what you think the actual threat is that some of that money doesn't come through in terms of formula versus discretionary funds, for instance, and then what the MTA may do if some of that money is withheld?
Steph, I appreciate that you're always looking forward, but today is about what Governor Hochul accomplished with the support of the legislature, which is to make sure the MTA capital program is fully funded. And one thing I want to add, this is the first time since the MTA has been doing capital programs that nobody quarreled or debated in any meaningful way what's in the capital program. Everybody accepted that the proposed capital program substantively was the right mix of projects and priorities. That is a milestone. Everybody accepted that the capital program needed to be 100% funded. That's a milestone. So huge accomplishment, tip of the hat to the leadership in Albany, especially Governor Hochul for that. Yes, we have some uncertainty at the federal level. Needless to say, we all read the news. We're in a big group on uncertainty coming from the federal level. That said, we're going to continue to comply with everything the federal, our projects require, and we've heard some of the verbal threats, but I think those are going to be addressed through the legal process if it becomes necessary, and we're very confident in that process.
Test. Budgets and numbers. Let's go to Michelle Caskey down there. She's with Bloomberg News.
Hey, Jano. Also about the capital plan, the Hochul on Monday said there will be $3 billion coming from the MTA. So before Monday, it was planned that MTA would there will be $13 billion of MTA and TBTA bonds. So now we're going to put $3 billion on top. So it would be $3 billion on top of that. Where's that $3 billion?
Not necessarily. So let me just be clear. We're very committed to maintaining and I especially want to talk to your readers in the municipal finance world. We're very committed to maintaining the ratio that 15% of our operating budget is debt service on debt. Okay, so there are lots of ways that we can accomplish the savings, the efficiencies that have been talked about. We're just getting started, so I don't want anyone to assume that we're going to be just piling on the borrowing because we're very committed to maintaining the right debt service ratio in our operating budget. But listen, we're optimistic. Like we've already shown that we can do more, do faster, better, and cheaper. Especially the cheaper part we're able to buy escalators 22% cheaper than we did in the old days. The elevator projects are, as we do more of them, I think we're getting much more efficient with them. The bundling is helping us to get more efficient. So we're going to look for, we're going to study how to accomplish that. I'm optimistic.
The capital budget?
Yeah, it may
because you're already doing the efficiencies on the operating.
Yeah, I think that we're going to look there first, and we're going to study the heck out of it and make sure we get there.
Look at the capital budget first.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, over to Christina Baker there in the mezzanine. No questions there. We'll move on to Elijah Westbrook, who's here from CBS 2. Elijah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jano. Good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations on the capital plan. And more to that point about the $3 billion that you guys have to contribute to the capital plan, can you just elaborate one more time? Where are you guys taking that money from, and when can we possibly expect to see that money contributed?
Well, listen, Elijah, I think what your viewers need to know is the MTA has already figured out how to save $3 billion on our prior capital plan. We are optimistic we can do it on the next one as well. And we're doing so much more work. Everybody knows how many stations are being made ADA accessible with all those elevators. We're just getting better at it, and we look forward to making sure that we hit that mark as we have in the capital budget before.
My final question, on Monday during the state budget announcement that Governor Hochul talked about, Steve mentioned about these 24/7 shelter sites for the homeless. Can you talk about that? Where are they going to be installed?
I just heard about that, but Governor Hochul's been a big supporter of dealing with the reality that people who are in mental illness distress are having a disproportionate impact on all of our public spaces, especially acute when you're in the subway and someone's having a mental health episode. So we want to help those people. The Scout program that the MTA initiated has been a huge success. She is, continuing to increase funding for Scout, which deals with severe mentally ill people who are in the subway system. And as for this, the other idea, we're going to take a look at it and see how that works.
On to Dave Colon. He's with Streets Blog. Dave.
feel like we don't get like good emphasis like the New York Times. You just want to.
The one and only Streets
Go on.
blog, is that what you're
That's
looking for?
something like that. I don't know. Every now and again, it just feels a little, we're
Dave
important
is
too.
crabby because the Knicks went down by 3, but they're still up 3-2.
Team's got some problems.
Stole one out. That's right, and they're moving.
Jano, I wanted to know, you guys had a lot to say on Monday about how well Omni is going and how it's going to be more or less finished, on as far as people can see by the end of 2025, and that by 2026 you're trying to move to proof of payment on buses. So what is the future of all-door boarding looking like for people at this point? I know you're shaking your head, but I mean,
Yeah, I'm shaking my head that you're so predictable. But we all have our bugaboos, our hobby horses, and I think I've said it to you a number of times. I think you guys have been covering a lot of super important stuff, but I think I have said many times I'm determined to sort of reestablish the principle of fare payment on buses effectively. I'm thrilled that we're moving towards a European-style fare payment, proof of payment system with handheld devices that our Eagle teams can use to make sure that folks on buses are and will continue to pay their fare. We are making progress on pushing back against fare evasion. That's my first priority, and we'll continue to look at all-door boarding as a desirable feature to be studied and made available when we've really brought back a much higher level of fare payment on the bus system.
Well, wait, does that mean that in 2026, when you have proof of payment, people are still going to have to get on the front door of the bus only?
Parse away, my friend. Next question.
That's what.
We got to move on because we're going to the Zoom machine right now, where Michael Aronson is standing by from the New York Daily News. Michael, you're up.
Thank you. I don't know if this is a question, if Rob Free is there, but it's really about his presentation. Over the past 3 years, because you're looking 3 years of this closure at East River Tunnel, over the past 3 years, how often is there an equipment failure or a track issue, a signal problem that has caused one of the 4 lines to go out of service for a while and you've recovered? And he said in his letter to Amtrak, he said, today it would be terrible if we had that and we wouldn't be able to recover. But does it happen once a month, once a year? And, so if this goes through and Amtrak starts closing the tunnels, it could happen once a week, once a month, once a year, just the frequency of these manageable problems and what that's been. Thank you.
Okay. So, Michael, I know how passionate you are about this topic, and you're a little bit down in the weeds. I'll defer to Rob, but I'll tell you this. I don't need an exegesis on what's gone wrong in the East River tunnels to be worried about Amtrak technical and mechanical and operational issues causing shutdowns. I just got to look at what's been happening in New Jersey side, and I'll defer to Rob otherwise, but Amtrak's track record for us is a little terrifying. Rob?
Thank you, Michael. I don't have specific numbers, but these type of incidents take place every day, and I think the larger point being made here is that with one tunnel completely out of service for the length of time, these type of incidents have a greater propensity to cause a much larger service disruption than we would experience currently. Right now, if something happens, we could use different tracks, different tunnels. With the limited infrastructure that we'll have, we'll be forced to still maintain service into one tunnel. So it's really situationally driven as to what would transpire, but the likelihood of a service disruption in light of the extra trains in the tunnels, only using one tunnel, would be much more impactful than it is currently.
All right, Rob, stay where you are because we're going to Alfonso Castillo next, who has come in person. He took your railroad earlier. He's with Tuesday. Alfonso.
If you play with it a lot, it'll come out way too loud. Go ahead.
On Amtrak, you've followed the progressive medicine of the MTA lately, and my understanding was that part of the reason that the project
all right, part of the reason the project was delayed as much as it was so you would have that redundancy when the extra set of tunnels open. So can you talk a bit about what having Grand Central Madison does and doesn't do when it comes to the potential problems with these closures?
Brother, you've been studying the Long Island Railroad system for a long time, so this is not exotic, right? If we were in this position and we didn't have Grand Central Madison, it would be a potentially catastrophic situation. We have now, we run 40% of our peak hour service, plus or minus, or 40% of our peak hour routers choose to go to Grand Central Madison. So there are, thanks to what you rightly remind us is our gateway, the East Side Access Grand Central Madison project, there is a second significant route on and off Manhattan Island for Long Islanders. That is a huge plus in this circumstance. It's why the Amtrak, it was the right thing to do, waited until Grand Central Madison was done. I remind all of us that part of the struggle with Grand Central Madison was that Amtrak, couldn't support the work getting done, and that impacted on both cost and schedule. But we got past that. And if we didn't have Grand Central Madison, as well as Atlantic, who knows? I mean, this would be that much scarier. But I'll let Rob talk about it otherwise.
Hi, Alfonso. I don't think the mindset is that we have Grand Central Madison. Who cares about Penn Station, right? As the chairman had mentioned, there's still 60%, 59% of our ridership that still wants to go to Penn Station, and our schedules are to accommodate those people. We did it to give people options. We still want to use Penn Station. We still need to, and we need to provide a reliable service as we do. So that's the mindset, is that we still look at it as we need to provide service to Penn Station and reliably.
And I ain't giving up these hard-won gains for on-time performance for Long Islanders because Amtrak is too hidebound to consider a different way of performing work. We're not going to sit idly by while our riders suffer because Amtrak just wants to do things the way they've always been done. That's the message.
Over to Samantha Liebman now with New York One.
Hi. Most of my questions were already asked and answered, so
Sam yields her time.
No, I'm not. I have other questions.
Sorry,
though.
my mistake.
I know. Come on. Anyway.
By the way, congratulations on the inner circle. I haven't been able to tell you. It was a big undertaking, and that's a big voice you got, lady.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show. I know I bugged you about it a lot, so we appreciate you coming. The Castleton Bus Depot, businesses on Staten Island around there say since the buses from the Meredith Depot came over, there's been a lot of traffic around it, and the buses trying to get into the depot have been piling up. They idle for a long time, blocking entrances to businesses. There's a lot of auto body places there, and the driveways are blocked. They say it's affecting business, and there's a lot of honking, and they're concerned with the service enhancements coming. It will get worse, and they want to know if the MTA has a plan to address this.
I don't know. We're going to take a look at Frank is here, so Frank will talk about the conditions on Staten Island. He spent a lot of time on that. I just need to reinforce the Meredith. This whole discussion of Meredith is a head scratcher for those of us at the MTA.
Well,
Meredith was a temporary. While we were building another depot, we rented temporarily some space so that we could have full depot capacity. And when the other depot was finished and the lease expired, we canceled. We didn't renew it. And we're saving a couple $1 million a year. That's responsible governance. And if the elected officials who are jawing at us about Castleton, I don't get how they can, on the one hand, attack the MTA as somehow financially irresponsible, and then attack us when we do something like managing our bus depot capacity. But I'll let Frank respond on the specifics.
So Samantha, it's fundamentals. There's enough space in and on the depot property
to park the buses. So fundamentally, it's not a bus issue. Okay? Again, I encourage DOT, just like we say out here in the streets, to enforce the bus right-of-ways and also enforce the streets. Illegal park, double parking. I'm sure if you look around the depot in that area, there's illegal double parking. It's not my buses. My buses, before or after Meredith, the buses have to come onto the depot. There's ample parking on the depot space and in the depot. So, that's our position.
They are kind of stuck. I mean, I stayed there for an hour and I watched them, and they're kind of stuck at the entrance. There's like a waiting time.
A lot of these elected officials who are fetching about this are city officials. Let them walk down the hall in City Hall and talk to the city folks who control the streetscape outside of the bus depot, okay?
My second question is about involuntary commitment changes. I mean, do you see that fundamentally changing things in the subway system in terms of crime, these changes?
Listen, it's no secret that, especially since we began the Scout program, we've been acutely aware of how difficult it is for clinicians who are professionals to make those determinations. And I think the governor is trying to make it so it is those determinations are not that we have people who are clearly in need of help, that they get into help, and that we're not spending all our time quarreling about legal definitions, and that we defer to the expertise of the mental health professionals rather than telling the mental health professionals, if you do something, we're going to drag you into court. And I think that is a plus for riders who want to be sure that people who are struggling with mental health and are in extreme mental health distress in the public space are being brought into treatment rather than left to suffer in the public space, which does have a huge impact to riders. And the riders are asking us, can you please, make me feel safer by helping to deal with that population more effectively.
All right, next seat over, Jose Martinez joins us from the city. Jose.
Hi, Jano. Are there any more sales when it comes to the next capital plan? Are there any more sales needed to be made to Albany, or is that all clear now? And does that then mean full speed ahead, as you said?
It is full speed ahead. We're hitting go on signal projects. We are literally, the folks who are in charge of rolling stock acquisitions are actually hiring people, and they're moving forward with the R262, procurement, and some additional procurements that are built on others that have taken place. So we're in go mode. More cars, moving forward with new signals, more ADA stations. We're going to be awarding contracts on ADA stations pretty soon. All of that is enabled by this historic agreement to support the MTA capital program.
All right, we move on to Haley Brown of the New York Post.
Two questions. The first one's on the budget. Your remarks saying that all the projects in the capital plan will still be implemented. It sounds like you're being defiant and refusing to trim down the plan even without the money. Or if the MTA is able to get $3 billion in cost savings and still keep everything, why weren't the cost saving measures implemented before?
Okay, so we're not being defiant. What we're doing is being responsible, saying Albany's now given us an assignment, which is to find $3 billion more savings. I'm confident, Haley, that we have actually accomplished a great deal in terms of making the MTA's capital program and the way we build and deliver projects a hell of a lot more efficient, and we've done enormous cost savings. We will send you again the presentation that Jamie Torres Springer made, which goes into all those details. So we're going to build on that, and we're going to deliver what the legislature has asked us to do. But I can't tell you exactly how we're going to do it just this minute.
Okay, and then the second question, it's about today the board voted on the Omni-related pilot. It was like only a $5 million pilot as part of that larger $500 million contract, but just curious about the pilot. So is it the Eagle teams who are going to be issuing the summonses or somebody else? And it says the pilot started in 2020. And it was expanded because the pilot was successful. How did the MTA measure the success of that pilot? What were those specific measurements?
Can you explain a little more what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
no.
You explained to me because I don't understand what specific.
Today, the board voted to expand an existing contract by $5 million.
Yeah.
And it is related to the implementation of the Omni
So
Tap and
it's
Go.
it's
But
adding.
this was a pilot specific. And by the way, I asked spokes for this information before, and they said this is the right forum to ask these very specific questions.
So I think that's the to finalize to complete the software that's needed to support the acquisition of all these handheld devices. So that's very clear. The handheld devices that Jamie's ready to give more detail, but will be the mechanism for enforcing proof of payment.
Yes.
This is what the New York Post wants, pushing back against fare evasion, which we have been successful in doing in the subways, 30% down in the since last summer. Please report that. There's been for the first time in quite some years, a turnaround in bus fare evasion, and we're determined to keep moving in the right direction by having a more effective proof of payment, more effective fare evasion enforcement system, and these devices are essential to do that. Jamie.
Just, is it the Eagle teams that use these?
So this is an onboard validation device that's now part of the Omni contract with the board's approval. What that allows is for the Eagle teams to get on the buses and ensure that there's proof of payment. And the onboard validation device is the way of doing that. It gets the data from the bus about who's paid, and then they're able to check that against whether our riders have paid. That's the basis for enforcement. There was a pilot of the technology that we did to make sure that it would work. It has proven out, and now we're proceeding to get the onboard validation devices, both the software and the devices, so that the Eagle teams can use them next year.
And how did you measure success?
The
staff summary doesn't give that level.
Success is that the technology worked.
All right, there's Steve Nesson down the row. He's with WNYC and Gothamist. Steve.
Hello. I just want to get your response to mayoral candidate Brad Lander's idea of bringing all the MTA agencies, buses, bridges, and tunnels headquarters under the city purview, this thing he calls Big Apple Transit, which you probably know from Corey Johnson floating it before. But how would that impact operations here, and why isn't that a reasonable idea?
Listen, I respect that. Brad Lander's a supporter of good transit, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I am not in favor of bureaucratic rearrangement of deck chairs. I'm in favor of continuing to build on the tremendous success that the MTA is having right now, which is better service, improving not just ridership but on-time performance, improving safety, and becoming more cost efficient in how we run our budget. Those are the things that, in getting projects done faster, better, and cheaper. That's what I'm focused on, rather than bureaucratic rearrangement.
Okay, Steve, should have mentioned you're also the czar of that widely influential newsletter On the Way, which we see on Thursdays. Let's go to Evan Simko-Bednarski to wrap up the proceedings from the Daily News.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, Jano. So on the topic of tunnels, but moving a little bit further south, I have noticed a number of track geometry cars running on the F line, have heard about a few of them as well. Wondering if you guys can give an update on the hunt for the track defect, and if you are in a position to rule out the 63rd Street tunnel as the source of that problem.
I think we need Demetrius or Bill or both for that one.
Joining us from New York City Transit, Demetrius Critchlow and Bill Amorosa.
So the teams have done an amazing job looking at leaving no stone unturned for what could be the issues that are causing the additional wheel wear. Happy to report that over the last month or so, they've essentially eliminated delays that were tied to wheel wear. That's been done on a number of different fronts. First, working with the car equipment teams in the shops to be able to true out the wheels associated with it. Our engineering teams working in the field hard work working with additional consultants, specialists in track engineering to be able to narrow down the scenarios. We've identified a couple of different solutions that we're currently evaluating, and thus far we think we have a good handle on it. We'll report more when we're more solid on the details.
All right, thank you, Jano, Demetrius, Bill, Rob, Jamie, Frank.
Are we closing out?
This is it, sir, unless you have some closing thoughts.
No, I just, it's a glum crowd, but I see some people back there who know this is a huge day for the MTA. And we have some more work to do, right? You guys are part of, we have some more work to do. We got to finish up. We have to readopt the budget, because right now the capital budget was vetoed, so we have to readopt it. We have to get to work. We have to obviously figure out the strategies for hitting that $3 billion goal the legislature and the governor have set for us. But this is big stuff for the riders, and I just tip of the hat, pass the press to folks behind you who have fought for bringing us this moment. So thank you.
All right, the record will reflect that was Deborah Grife dancing back there. She was dancing, she was happy. All right, farewell to Frank Anacaro as he moves up to Albany and runs that system. Thanks, everybody. Good night from Lower Manhattan.